is Beverly Hills, Wasabi. See that park? See all these trees and flowers? Someday this will all be yours.
I'm Grant from Screen Rant. Sally, it is great to get to chat with you and to talk about every little thing. I watched it yesterday and I was so moved by it. It's such a sweet film, but also a very emotional one at times as well. And I'd love to hear, when did you first learn about Terry and what drew you to want to help bring her story to the screen?
What a great question. Because, the idea of someone who dedicates their time to running a hotline for hummingbirds was kind of like, oh, that's weird. That's unusual. That's quirky. So I was sort of drawn in by that as an idea. And I'd been sent the review of Terry's book. And I think it was in the LA Times or Chicago Tribune or something. And it was just the review of Terry's book, Fastest Things on Wings. And I thought, okay, this woman sounds really interesting. But I wasn't really that convinced that it would make for a, long form cinematic feature documentary. But after reading the book and realizing that there was a grand kind of metaphoric opportunity to see the birds the way that Terry sees them, these kind of tiny magical creatures who are all broken in some way, are this grand metaphor for the human fragility, and that there was a journey to be had that was a healing one that shone a light on humanity in some curious way, and that it was set in Los Angeles, this mythic cinema city, that's been seen in all these incredible films, but never through the eyes of the hummingbird. So I thought all of those things were really captivating and potentially highly cinematic. And the birds themselves, they're beautiful to look at and to film. So that was the beginning of the journey, and it's been a privilege to make this film.
I love that. And so I'll talk about the birds in a second, but I'd love to dive deeper into talking with, Terry as in all these interviews and stuff. Obviously, as as a documentarian, you really have to build that trust to let them be vulnerable on camera. What was it like, finding that with Terry, that connection and that trust?
She's incredible and extremely cerebral. So we initially connected very sort of, friendly and empathetically, but very sort of intellectually. I loved the way she is so well read. She's got 4 degrees, and one of them is, English literature. And there's a Charles Bukowski quote every 5 seconds, she's amazing. And so I think initially it was this sort of ideas fest, and allowing ourselves to, have this relationship. It's an unusual relationship, the idea of somebody allowing themselves to be filmed and the person filming them. And there's something in that exchange that is, if you allow it to be, deeply honest, but you have to enter it in a way that I believe, in a way that's incredibly transparent. And so I'm always very front forward about, this is what I hope, this is what I don't know. It's not like you're some sort of Wizard of Oz character behind the scenes and you've got all the answers. You don't at all. If you are open to the actual documentary journey, which is, allowing life to unfold on camera, it's profound. But you have to be up for it, shall we say. And Terry, as she says, does not trust easily. And so it was a process of forming a relationship of trust. And I believe the only way you can do that is when you exchange and when you share things and when you prove yourself to be trustworthy and all of these things. And those things take time, and those things take faith, and faith in a way in the other human, So it's an exchange. And I did not go into the film knowing anything really about Terry's personal story. I just thought initially, oh, this is really curious. This is, this is weird. This is fun. This will be funny. And I wasn't prepared for the epic, I suppose, philosophy that filming with Terry enabled. And what a privilege.
So I did want to touch on that as well, because I do love that this film is so much about her as it is about her, efforts to help all these hummingbirds. And, from the writing and directorial side on a documentary, I mean, when in the process did you realize you did want to sort of find that balance between exploring her life as much as exploring what she does for the birds?
Yeah, I think that it's an inevitable question. Once you allow yourself as the viewer to go into this world, and hopefully you're captivated by, the curiosity of, what is she doing there, and how are these birds in her care, and all, once you enter that space, of course, inevitably you're like, well, who does it? Why? Who does that and why? So I always knew that was a question. And interestingly enough, I asked her, I said, why did you do this? And she couldn't answer it, actually. She said, I don't know. I don't know. And it was only through the process of spending time and starting to share. And then she revealed, her personal story. And often when someone is interviewed, it can be a very empowering thing. It can also make you feel very vulnerable. And she said to me afterwards, she was like, yeah, it's more about the birds, isn't it? I mean, you're not really going to use all of that. And it's not that interesting, is it? I said, yeah, I think it's pretty important, actually, Terry. I think that might be it. And I think in some ways, it was a revelation to her as much as it was part of the revelation in the film of connecting the dots through her life of why someone might be compelled to do this work. But it's obviously at a very subconscious, subterranean level. And it's only through the filmmaking process, perhaps, that those things can kind of come to the surface in a way that's unexpected and beautiful. And I think that we're very conscious, or I tried not to be didactic in the film. I tried not to be consequential. It's a film that is supposed to be an invitation, and you're supposed to be engaged with the film and draw your own conclusions. And hopefully that makes for an engaging experience in watching it. Yeah.
I certainly thought it was an engaging experience, and I loved the rhythm of how everything we learn about her goes along with her efforts with the birds. So kudos to you on that. Now we can't talk about this movie without talking about the birds. I mean, what incredible creatures! And you're obviously no stranger to filming, nature documentaries. But can you talk me through the process of some of these filming sequences? Maybe beginning with the training sequences, and she's giving them the little exercises.
Right. Yeah, it's funny, because I love these stories about our natural world, but I don't consider myself a natural history filmer. I'm not. I like filming the human condition. Actually, I just happen to have settled into the finding it through our engagement with other creatures. But when she said, and I have physiotherapy for the birds. And then she presented that wooden, you see in the film, what looks like a wooden dumbbell. Mm-hmm. And in my head, I was like, it's a weightlifting bar for, I was like, this is their physiotherapy. I mean, I was so charmed by that. All of these, it's like the accoutrement of her rehabilitation. They were profound to me. And I said to the cinematographer, we need to film these things in macro lens and really shallow depth of field. He's like, it's a stick. And I was like, I know, it's a magic stick though. Anyway, So the filming was necessarily close. We knew that it needed to have macro lensing. We knew that we needed to be seeing the bird's world in a way that you wouldn't otherwise see with the human eye. And the beauty of filmmaking is that you have these tools where you can do that. So the scene that you're referring to is one of her many ways in which she tries, like any good therapist does, to get the bird, in her case, the bird, to work on itself. And it's a therapy scene or a flight training scene in which she is raising and lowering her bar on which the bird sits. And that's a way to enable the bird to feel the rush of the falling motion, meaning that they might lift their wing, meaning that the wing itself gets stronger, meaning that the bird is on its journey to rehabilitation. So this was a revelation to me, you know, the idea of that time and patience and care. And she has all sorts of tricks, shall we say. You know, she makes her own, you see in the film these syringes, and they have a kind of a protein mix as well as the sweetness of the nectar. She makes them so that the bird has to reach for them. It's a strengthening. Every single thing has a reason. There's handmade, I know, it kills me, handmade crocheted nests for these hummingbirds. I mean, can you imagine such a sweet thing? And around the edge of the crocheted nest is a little bit of electrical wire so that they can learn to perch, because it's the right size, the right gauge, if you like, for their tiny. I was obsessed with their feet for a while. I was like, oh my God, that's so cute. Like seeing them hang on, because these creatures are literally smaller than your finger. I mean, they're tiny. So yeah, we filmed everything really close. Sorry, I've really diverted away from your question. We filmed everything really close. And we also filmed with aerial cinematography, drone cameras, because I loved the idea of having that contrast between the otherworldly microscopic world of the birds and this wide view, which is literally bird's eye view of their home, in this case, California. So, and then the high-speed photography was something that we knew early on would be an opportunity to really slow down what is an otherwise incredibly rapid flight, but it's magical. And so when you see it slowed down, it takes on this kind of poetic dance, I suppose. And Tanya, my editor and great compatriot, was just so honoring of all of those filmic intentions, but managed to stitch it in a way that they all elevate the other. You know, it's not like the whole film is slow-mo. It's not like the whole film is archival texture. It's this knitted together combination of those elements that hopefully allows each element to feel important.
Well, I love the way you captured them. I mean, whether it's like you said, the slow-mo flights when it's out in the open, or even one trying to fly away almost up into a vent from Terry.
Right.
It's so amazing watching all of that sequences. I think I'm coming close to time, so I did want to ask really quickly as well. I grew up a huge Bob Marley fan, so Three Little Birds to end on felt like, beyond just the name, it felt like the appropriate vibe for this kind of documentary. But how did you land on that being sort of the closing note, in addition, you know, along with the footage of them all on that water structure?
Isn't it amazing when something feels so inevitable? You're like, of course, right? But we actually, for a long time, didn't know what the film should be called. And, you know, I danced around with different ideas thinking, there's something about, there's some bird characters, as you will have seen in the film. And that each have really captivating names like Cactus and the Wild Boys. So for a while I thought, the film should be called Terry and the Wild Boys. That'd be a really fun title. And it was actually one of our producing partners, Tangled Bank, HHMI, Tangled Bank Studios, and Sean Carroll, who's no longer there, but he had suggested that track. And we were like, oh, that's genius. It's so good. So, we were sort of like, once that was in as an idea, it was then finding the right place for it. And initially, I actually thought the film might have a lot of commercial music within the film because it's Hollywood and because it's Los Angeles. And I thought, that's really fun. And we could be very playful with different finders and have different music tracks that would be very emblematic of each person's personality. And we just stripped the film right back. And I worked with a longtime collaborator of mine, Caitlin Yo, beautiful composer from Australia, female composer. And we have these great conversations, Caitlin, in which she lets me talk for ages. And then she somehow transcribes and consolidates down the ideas. And she's like, is this what you're reaching for? And I'm like, exactly. That's exactly what I'm reaching for. And so she had gravitated to the flight and the bird's wings as an idea. And she knew that she wanted violins to be in the score. And I think her score is sublime. And so, Three Little Birds is like the perfect end note, and the film opens with another classic Californian track, It Never Rains in Southern California, and the rest of it is Caitlin.
I love that. I'm glad you did pull back on that, because the score really adds to that sense of whimsy and wonder about the birds that just, it plays so perfectly. So I see I am out of time, so I will get on out of here. But Sally, thank you so much for taking the time. It's truly been amazing to talk about this film. I can't wait to get the word out about it. I mean, I know my partner, she's a big fan of birds, so she's going to love this movie. But yes, thank you so much, though. Truly an incredible film from start to finish.
Thank you very much, Grant, and I hope she does enjoy it.
Thank you. Hope you have a great rest of your week, or weekend, I should say.
Take care.
Cactus, it's okay, baby. He's got a very serious injury. He wants to fly very badly, and I hope that he will.